like it's kind of shifted over the years. Like we've been doing this for what, 25 years now. We had a yoga studio and a wellness center of one form or another. And so it's been, 25 years of moving through the community. Darren was the chair of Near North Palliative Care. We work with them. They've actually been incredible for my grief counseling. So there's another, here's Monica from Near North, and Darren was her boss, and here she is also helping me through my grief as she goes through her grief. And it's been an incredible journey. It really has. And it doesn't mean that everything is always perfect. It just means that the sense of community is there, and the sense of support. And one of the things that both Darren and I have always stated, we've kept our fingers in other jobs and other happenings because even though we are a business that charges or takes in money, we have never turned anybody away because they cannot afford. All we have ever, all I've ever needed to hear, all he ever needed to hear was, I really need this, but I can't because of whatever, and they come in. And the ones that are supposed to come in, and the ones that don't, it's okay. They don't. And everybody will have different times in their lives, Yeah. So.
How long have you been right here at this location?
This location we built, we're coming on our 14th year, I believe. Yeah. What happened was we had, I started my yoga journey because I had gotten ill. And I was working for the government, and it just got to where my body kind of broke down, my brain kind of broke down, and I was in Toronto for doctor's appointments, and a friend of mine had said, you should do yoga. And I looked at her and I said, Christine, and I mean, I'm a round body to begin with, but at the same time I was a much bigger round body, and I said, I can't touch my toes to save my life, and you want me to go to a yoga class. And so I kind of laughed and I said, nope, not going. And the next day she had left me a note on her refrigerator because she knew I would get up to have breakfast. And it said, your restorative class is at 2 p.m. I really hope you go, but P.S., if you don't, I will still love you. And I thought, I got to go now. Yeah, so I thought, shoot. So I went, and it was at the Downward Dog in Toronto, and I happened to walk into a 3rd level Ashtanga class, which is very bendy, twisty, and I thought, gosh, I don't like my friend right now. So I went to the bathroom and I cried my eyes out because I thought, what is she doing to me? And I took it all on as victim.
Yeah.
And as I was walking out, somebody, the teacher had stopped me, and she said, are you Nicky? And I said, yeah. And she says, we've been waiting for you. So the back of my head is going, oh my gosh, I've just made somebody wait for me. And I'm going, oh my gosh. And so I turned around and I went to the class. I needed 2 people to get me up and down off the floor at that point. I needed assistance and so many props, it wasn't funny. So, but the really cool thing was that when I left the class, I remember calling Darren and saying, hey, I'm experiencing my first hour and a half, 2 hours of pain-free with no meds. There's something to this. And the addiction started. And I'm going to say the word addiction in the most positive way, because that's when I started my mat battle. And I would start yoga, and then I'd stop, and then my brain would say, I feel good. Oh, I don't need it. Oh, I hate it. And so for 3 years, I battled my mat. And finally, I surrendered to my mat. And I finally surrendered to my mat. I thought, okay, this is good for me. I'm going to do this. And it was funny because Darren came home, and I had found a teacher here in North Bay. There was only one studio at the time, and she didn't teach the classes that I felt that I needed. She didn't teach restorative, And so I found a beautiful yogi by the name of Frank Wheeler, who no longer lives in town, but he would come to my house and we would do yoga. And it was kind of funny because, I'd think, Frank's coming on Friday. Wednesday, okay, I'll start doing my yoga. And then, Sunday I'd go, oh, okay, I'm not going to do yoga. And then, oh my God, Frank's coming, I better do my yoga. So until it kicked in. And then I started doing my teacher training with Frank. And Darren came home one day and he says, hey, you ready to return to work tomorrow? And I went, yeah, but I want to open a yoga studio. He says, well, you're not quite finished yet, your teacher training. I said, that's okay. I'm going to have Frank and whoever else teach. And I'll teach 1 or 2 classes. And if I can teach 1 or 2 classes a week to 4 people, that'll be good for me. And it'll keep me honest to my mat. It'll keep me with my mat. And so he said, okay, so how are we going to do this? And I said, well, he says, we can't afford 2 places. And he says, you're just trying this out. I said, nope. I said, it's okay. I found an old building and we're going to see it tonight at 7:00. And we're going to sell this house. And, my patient man is looking at me and he's going, okay. And so where the food bank is right now in Callender, we bought the 2 buildings. And as we're going through the building, I'm looking and I said, oh, I think we need a bigger building. And he said, okay, hold on. We're going to go this far. We'll see how it goes, and then we'll worry about it later. I'm willing to go halfway. I said, okay. So we sold the house. We bought a 125-year-old building with we moved from 2,000 square feet to 685 with floors that were going, every which way. You could roll an alley from one end of the apartment to the other. We moved our son. We had friends going, what are you doing? And I said, I love yoga and I want to teach. And they thought we were crazy. And that's how it kind of started.
Wow.
Yeah. And let's see, teachers started to come in. I was teaching, and I still use the name, I call it Yoga for Round Bodies. And my class started growing and growing and growing. And about 2 years in, I had a beautiful student call me and she says, so you've been working with my friend. I said, uh-huh. And she says, and you've done some wonderful things for my friend. And she says, but I have a problem. And I said, oh, what's your problem? And she says, I'm not a round body. I weigh 80 pounds, soaking wet. And she says, but I can tell you, I have body issues. And I thought, oh, I just did what I was told. I was told, well, you shouldn't be on a mat. You're round. So it was, and those were many years ago, right? Like we're talking over 25 years ago. So the mindset has changed now. I really believe that yoga is for everybody. Over the years, our studio became so busy, so full. We ended up building here, and we designed our whole house based on the yoga studio. Mm-hmm. We walked upstairs and we went, so how do we want this? No idea. So it was, so we left it big so it could be part of the studio and, And so that's kind of how this sort of happened.
Wow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's been a pretty cool journey. My first trip to India for teacher training, I had no idea what Ashtanga yoga was. Really, I didn't. And so I went with one of my teachers that was teaching out of here at the time, and we ended up in Mysore, India, and doing about the most incredible hard yoga that I've ever done. Cried my eyes out for 3.5 weeks nonstop, and just because my body was shedding, it was hurting. I felt so out of place, and had some really good lessons there, and lessons about perception and about just life in general. And on the way home, we were reading a book together called Yoga School Dropout. And it was all about our teachers in Mysore and how this girl had ended up dropping out. And we both started to laugh because had we had known and read the book before, we probably would have never ended up there. But I loved my teacher, Shashadri, so, so much. And so that was the first time I went. And then I was able to bring my son when he was 16 or 15. And my son and I went to India, and we traveled all the way southern India and up back into Bangalore and Mysore, and spent a few more weeks with my teacher. And yeah, so I've been very fortunate. I'm a legacy teacher, so my teachers they're from Krishnamachar, and so it goes Krishnamachar, my teachers, then me, and so that's kind of. It means nothing, but it's kind of cool at the same time. But it's just, yeah, I was fortunate enough to go to India and be taught by, some of the masters. So that's cool.
And how does that translate into teaching people calendar as far as...
Well, my student base is, I've had some students, even in my beginner classes for the last 25 or so years. How does it translate? When we first opened up the studio, there used to be a little paper, a little local paper, and I'm at the Mike's Milk, and there's this little local paper, so it's how it's changed, right? And I'm looking as I'm at the cash register, and I go, calendar has a cult. Oh my gosh, I want to read about this cult. And I realized that it was about our studio and how the cult had moved into calendar. How has it? I have had students. I have had students come from as far as Sunridge, Huntsville, South River, Sudbury. Depending on what they need, I have gone on my yoga journey to where I am a yoga practitioner or and a yoga therapist. So it's just expanded into, I don't know, it's been a beautiful journey. Thousands have come through the door over the years, and it's been a extreme pleasure. Darren was a traditional Chinese medicine practitioner. He also did myofascial release. Together we kind of developed, I do a myofascial class where we're working with balls and rollers and yoga, and I've kind of integrated everything in to have people get release from their fascia, their tight fascia. We've done projects where we have fundraised for cancer. We've fundraised for palliative care. We have, it's been a community, a whole community. So from my, 4 girlfriends that I started teaching, and it's just grown over the years. And so it's been an honor, and it's interesting because as I grow older, my client base is also, I also have younger students, but it's really neat because even at a nursing home yesterday, I went to visit one student who is now 97, and she was one of my greatest mentors, Dr. Antonietta Francini. And so I was visiting her, and as I'm leaving, I saw another one of my students, and I thought, wow, this has been a pretty incredible journey because I have children now and grandchildren of students that have started. And so I've witnessed, it's allowed me to witness life kind of flowing from beginning to end. Mm-hmm. And it's given me a really, a bit of a, how can I put it? I don't want to say lighter, because I would be fibbing if I said, something like Darren's passing or my father's passing or however many have passed in the last couple of years has not affected me. Absolutely it has, but it has certainly helped me to ground myself and learn how to find the love out of this whole thing we call life, from beginning and end. You know? Yeah.
Fair to say that a yoga lifestyle is a really strong foundation for everything?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. There is a component. So there's the body, there's the mind, and there's also our integral self, our spirit, our heart, whatever, you know, and it all depends on the person and what they believe in. So there are actually, I look at it as three parts of us. And a lot of times, because our eyes see outwards, we are attached to a person or an event or a happening or whichever, because our eyes go that way. So, you know, we look for our happiness out there, when really our happiness lives right within our hearts. And if we can kind of, I don't want to say get rid of, but be aware of our heart center, our soul center. If we can call ourselves into that, it helps to release a lot of what the mind likes to tell us, because our minds are really great storytellers, and our body, we're so busy looking out that we forget that really our true happiness comes from within. So yeah, for me, that's how my yogic lifestyle has kind of helped. It doesn't mean that, you know, hey, I don't go do, you know, I love my Sea-Doo, or I love this, or I love that, or whatever. But it means that when something happens, yes, I will have the emotions or whichever, because I'm human, but at the same time, I have tools and practices that have helped me just to kind of settle in, so that I can kind of go, whew. And even with grief really is just a whole lot of love. So if we can take that grief, that sadness, turn it around, we can pour love into it, and it becomes easier. So yeah, just, you know, that helps.
Oh, yeah. No, well, whether it's yoga or it's something else, for people who find a balance in life are prepared for the upsets in life, right?
Absolutely.
Right. And it's like pre-construction maintenance for your life.
Absolutely, because yes, a yogic lifestyle is much more than just, I'm going to find my mat and I'm going to do a whole bunch of asanas, poses. I'm going to sit there and I'm going to meditate. Well, if the mind can't shut down, you can't meditate.
Yeah.
And so it's learning how to drop the mind or let go of those thoughts and drop in, you know, to here. Yeah. And you can get that feeling. I don't need my mat to get that feeling. I don't need my, you know, my space where I like to personally do my own stuff. You can do it, you know, a lot of times I'll just go out. I love the lake. I'm a water person. So I will sit, you know, or I'll drive my Sea-Doo out to the middle of the lake, and I stop it, and that's where I stay.
Techniques to find your center.
Techniques to find your center. So really, I'm really just a deliverer of tools. I do not fix anyone. We are not broken. We need tools to help
fix ourselves.
To fix ourselves. You know, heal thyself, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what I do. I deliver tools. I am the conduit, or whatever you want to call it. I am the tool deliverer. And some tools will work for people and some tools don't. You know, sometimes when I work with runners, I'll go, you know, and like the extreme runners that really run, you know, sometimes it makes me kind of ask them, so what are you running from? You know, but at the same time, I could ask myself the same thing for something else. And so it's finding the things that work for us. And it may not be a yoga class. It may be, you know, somebody may really, you know, if you've developed, if you ended up with a what would you call it? A concussion. Brain body work is really good, but you don't want to dive into brain body work where where you're actually doing this for a very long time. You want to do really short intervals. And sometimes it's the same. If somebody's dealing with post-traumatic stress and you tell them, hey, you're going to do an hour's worth of yoga, holy crow, or you're going to go for a run for an hour, or you're going to, like time span. So you want to do small little increments of different things so that it's more palatable and acceptable. I always figure if you can breathe, you can do yoga. You're doing yoga if you're breathing.
Huh.
Yeah.
So it's never too late to get started?
Absolutely, never too late. My oldest student, like I say, she's in a nursing home now, but she did yoga from the age of 8 until the age of 94.
Wow.
And she was quite incredible. And that was with having experienced breast cancer and having lymphoma and like lymph cancer. So her body was not straight any longer. It was, and she did yoga for years and years. And yet I volunteer and go to some of the nursing homes and teach there. I was volunteering I volunteered on the forensic wards at the psychiatric hospital for 12 years. And part of that, like you can do yoga to help you recover from addictions. I do the same thing. I was going to the, I can't think of the name of the place right now, but recovery home. Mm-hmm. And I would teach yoga and also teach a little bit of spirituality and a little bit of, just kind of different tools, and there's so many different facets, and breath is important. I mean, biggest tool we have in our body, if you close your mouth and you plug your nose, in 5 minutes, you tell me the biggest tool and you'll not last 5 minutes. It's our breath, and the amount of oxygen that we can get into our bodies. The majority of us breathe through our mouths. Mouth breathing is not healthy. It promotes dis-ease and disease.
I've trained myself to breathe through my nose.
Perfect. Good. Yes. So I do tell people, try to train yourself to breathe through your nose because it has filters to keep disease out. Mm-hmm. And it also keeps us calm. And there are different positions with the nerve endings and the tongue usage and where it helps to calm and sedate the body.
Better oxygen.
If you want to kind of ignite the body, it's right nostril breathing, where you're panting like a dog. If you want to sedate the body, left nostril breathing, where you slow things down.
It's amazing, eh?
Yeah, it's really, really, really amazing. The breath is the key to the body and the brain for sedation, for ignition, for general health. There's a breath that's called Shadi Nodana, alternate nostril breathing. When you do the alternate nostril breathing, well, that helps to rebalance the body and the brain so that it gets you ready to just, for meditation or for whichever. And really, at one point, one of the reasons why yoga was developed was because the body would chatter too much when somebody would sit. You'd have a sage or and they would sit to do meditation, but then the body starts to chatter and talk, and then it causes either a confusion or maybe like a diffusion or some sort of, hey, your body's aching, so your brain can't shut down because the body's aching. And so they would do yoga in order to help strengthen their body so that they could actually sit in meditation longer. So that's one of the reasons. But the breath is king. The breath is key for everything that we do.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
I trained myself to breathe through my nose so that I'd shut up and listen to people while I'm interviewing. That's just
maybe
a joke.
I should. I was just going to say, sometimes maybe I should just practice that. I'm a little chatty sometimes. Yeah, that's good.
If you're breathing through your nose, your ears are open.
Oh, I love that. That's wonderful. You know what? I may use that with a couple people that I know. Hey, if we breathe through our nose, our ears will be open. That's awesome. And our mouths will be closed.
That's the key part.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm. Well, that's excellent. So there's a whole gamut of, I think it's the first step for somebody becoming healthier is wanting to be healthier and taking charge of your own health. Right?
That's right. Movement is
taking
medicine.
charge. Yeah.
Taking charge. So the movement is medicine. You know, and there's also mindsets to it. So if we're calling out, I hurt, all we're going to do is bring more hurt to us. If we call out, okay, so when I was dealing with chronic pain, I had to retrain my brain, because I'd wake up in the morning and I'd go, and it would take me an hour and a half just go from the bed to the washroom, because my body was crippling up. And so it was like, oh my God, I hurt. And and it's like you're feeding your body with hurt, right? So then I started retraining my brain and going, okay, what 3 things can I do to make myself feel better? And so as I started to practice those 3 things, sometimes, you know, like maybe 1 and 2 didn't work, but number 3 would a little bit. So then I add, you know, and I started building this written down toolbox of the things that helped me work. So it's a lot of it is mind over matter. And a lot of it, especially when you're dealing with chronic pain and stress. So a lot of times, stress and anxiety, policies and procedures. So if I look at it corporately, policies and procedures, we love them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are the steps that you do things. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. What happens is you're dealing with chronic pain. So let's say your lower back is really sore. Well, if your lower back is really sore, 9 times out of 10, because you're compensating, your left shoulder is going to start to hurt, or maybe, you know, on the neck, and the body will crisscross and do all kinds of wonderful things. But the brain goes, okay, so I got to fix down there. Oh, wait, no, I got to fix up here. So there's like a crossfire, and the brain and the body starts to argue.
Right.
And then it starts to become confused, and it can no longer go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And by that point, we have stopped breathing properly. We have not been able to settle our heads so that our bodies can relax. And it becomes like this really big ball of, oh my gosh. And if you compile on top of that maybe a stressful situation, suddenly you're dealing with like a post-traumatic stress, and your body's stressed out, and your head is doing this. And if you're not doing something for yourself that is healthy, and let's say, you ended up where you're stuck in a room, or you're, and you're playing video games all the time, that's also feeding the brain, right? So you have to really, really step back. I really believe it doesn't matter whether you're in a wheelchair, whether you're in a hospital bed, whether you're 90 or whether you're 8 or even younger, you can do some form of either movement, if you don't want to call it yoga, movement, breath, taking care of yourself, because really it's not up to the medical doctors to take care of us. It is not up to the holistic practitioners to take fully care of us. First and foremost, it is ourselves. And we have to take control of that. And I'm not saying control with force. I'm saying we have to be accountable to ourselves. And if we're not accountable to ourselves, how could we expect somebody else to take care of us? Or if we have a tendency where we are constantly, I fall into this sometimes. I love to take care of people. I love to help and aid and do whatever. And sometimes I forget me. So if I take care of everybody else, but I'm not taking care of myself, then how do I expect to keep myself healthy in order to take care of other people?
Yeah.
So we have to, we have to balance out life one way or the other. There's always going to be situations, 3 constants in life. 1, everything is subject to change. 2, right now, you and I are here. This is that present moment. And 3, we're all going to die. And I don't mean to be an alarmist or a negative. It's not a negative thing. So to me, take care of ourselves so that we can live our lives as healthy as we possibly can. And we're not here to live in grief and sorrow, and we will experience grief or sorrow, but we're not here to suffer. And when we get into positions where we are suffering all the time, it's not a good life, and it's not a good way to go, you know?
Yeah, wallowing in our own excrement it doesn't get you too far.
No.
I've had it described to me this way, where it's kind of like the technology we're talking about, the computers and programs.
Mm-hmm.
You're either writing a program for yourself,
Yep.
or you're following a program.
Yep.
So you're either doing one or the other. So if you every day you're either following the program you wrote for yourself, or
Yeah.
you're following some other program.
Mm-hmm.
And that program may have some bugs in it that aren't working out, so you have to rewrite it.
See, and here's where I kind of look at things. And you're right, you have to rewrite. But I kind of go, okay, so here's the program that I've designed for myself. And I'm constantly always looking at what other programs are out there or happening.
Yeah.
And then I kind of go, yeah, I really like this.
There's an app for that.
There's an app for that, and I really like this. And I'm really, being like my regular trade is graphic design, and I'm always on the computer, either doing, some sort of book or manual or whatever. But I'm not a big app fan. And at the same time, the tools that I use, I always think there's more than one way to do things.
Mm-hmm.
And there's always more than one way to problem solve. There's always more than one way to... So even though I'm going this road, what happens, let's say it doesn't work, I would take a look at that and I would go, is that my program or is that a pattern? Because patterns are really good for recovery, but patterns are not really all that great for continuously living by. Because what happens is that if I taught the same class over and over and over again, my body and my brain is going to adapt. Oh, here's the motion, here's the motion, here's the motion. Oh, I don't like this motion, or I'm getting sore here. But if I take a pattern that I like and I mix it with something new, my brain and my body is going, hey, how do I have to figure that out? So it helps keep us sharp.
Mm-hmm.
Because, and that helps with things like Alzheimer's and you name it, and that's why...
The brain loves a challenge.
My God, the brain loves a challenge. The neurosystem loves a challenge.
It grows off of that.
Right? It totally grows, and it's fun. And so I mix sometimes I don't say sometimes, almost all the time. My yoga classes are very traditional in the sense that I start at the soul, I end at the soul. I have a certain set of asanas or poses that I bring the class through. I'm always going to do meditation. I am always going to do sounding or some form of chanting, which, people go, oh my gosh, it's no different than singing in your car. Mm-hmm. And I could even explain that theory. But I believe, so I traveled to Phoenix, Arizona, learned a whole bunch of brain-body stuff. And now in my classes, I do brain-body with the yoga.
There you go.
So I'm working the neural system, which yoga already works the neural system, but I'm working it differently.
Is singing like a breathing exercise, though?
Singing is a breathing exercise. Here's my theory behind it. Think of our Western songs. Think of your favorite song. What could you sing first? I'm not asking you to sing.
Don't do that. You're all good.
But what I would ask you to...
You really need a burning rendition of Burning Ring of Fire.
Perfect. But what would you sing for Burning Ring of Fire? It would be burn, burn, burn. It's the chorus, right? So it's the chorus. So the chorus is the repetition. So the Western, because Eastern has been here for thousands of years, chanting really is, chanting is chanting for joy, peace, love. It's not like anybody's chanting for anything, they're chanting for God, for love. The Western took the chorus and they realized that the chorus, the chant, it's the repetition that's important. it connects to the heartstrings.
There you
So
go. Yeah.
imagine, you're driving down the street and, and your favorite song comes on and you're listening, and then all of a sudden it causes a connection. So you're either crying, you're singing, you're laughing, you get to your destination and you go, how the heck did I get here? Like the time just flew. It's because they caused a connection. It caused a connection to your heart and your soul. And so you were able to have those moments of peace. So form of meditation, because it gives you peace. It gives you tranquility or a release, right? So that is why I think Western music, not Western, but like our continent, our side of the world has figured out that, hey, choruses cause the heart connection, and that's going to sell more albums, and it's going to do this. If not, music would be all over the place, right? Yeah. And music also always tells stories, usually. The words.
Yeah.
So no different than chanting. Some of the chants actually tell beautiful stories about the Bhagavad Gita, and it's all, if you listen to it, that's like almost like I would call it a Bible of sorts, and I have listened to it in chants and in Sanskrit, and I don't know a lot of Sanskrit, but I find it beautiful. But if you read the book, it's a beautiful story, and it just goes through, and it's like, and that's what life is. It's no different than, going to a church, you're listening to a hymn, that will give joy, or, I know sometimes, and now I'm going to get into religion, because people think, oh my gosh, it's really, we're all just one. We are all one. And so it's finding peace from within, so that we can connect to whatever it is that whomever it is or whatever it is that we choose to believe in. Because really it's just all one. And I am no different from you. You are no different from me. Yes, we have different brain patterns or thoughts or happenings that take on, but really we're all just here, and we're existing, right? So we try to exist the best way that we can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to.
It really does. And especially after having somebody as close to me as Darren passing, nothing really matters at the very end. We get way too hung up on whatever is out here that we're looking at, and we don't, because we can't see inside of ourselves, it's harder for us to connect to here. But I can tell you, we get way too hung up on stuff. And my human self still gets way too hung up on stuff sometimes. It's always a work in progress for any of us to, like, for me to bring myself back. I have some really good friends that like to say, where are you right now? What's happening right now? Where's your awareness?
That's why it's important to have that foundation to come back to, right?
Absolutely. We always need some form of foundation, and I'm not saying that, a yogic lifestyle is better. Well, I mean, that is my preference. Somebody else, it could be religion. Somebody else, it could be, hey, my practice of running, or my practice, that's what brings me to that center, And so for me, it's my yogic lifestyle.
Well, it's nice to get to know you.
Well, thank you. Nice to be able to share with you.
We're going to do a couple more of these.
Okay.
And you can pick a specific topic for the next one.
Okay.
And then we'll just get a little bit more deeper into whatever topic you think is beneficial for people to understand.
Okay. All right. So that'll be fun.
And maybe at one point they'll try to get you to show me how to bend without breaking.
Perfect. Absolutely. Yep.
Right on.
Okay.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you. All right.
Yeah.